I'm just going to keep repeatedly telling you that you're not the problem. The ADHD is the problem, and not figuring out effective coping mechanisms because nobody wants to like acknowledge that you need those is the problem. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and this is my ADHD lifestyle. If you like my content, please like and subscribe, and if you'd like, you can hit the bell icon to get notified every single time that I post. So today I'm here to talk to you about one of my least favorite things in the world, cleaning my house. And you know, honestly, I often feel like that I'm bitches meme where the headline is something like,
"Bitches ignore dishes for weeks and clean the same bowl over and over to make a salad."
That's me, I'm bitches. But anyway, I'm here to talk to you about what I do to motivate myself even when cleaning feels like the absolute worst thing in the world. Before I get into my tips, I kind of want to talk a little bit about executive dysfunction and how it relates to people with ADHD, as well as my least favorite cleaning activities, just because I think that's going to be kind of fun. So according to Wikipedia, executive dysfunction or executive function deficit is a disruption to the efficacy of the executive functions, which is a group of cognitive processes that regulate, control, and manage other cognitive processes. So what does that mean for those of us with ADHD? Now, I'm gonna leave a link in the description to an article which actually gives you a little bit more information about executive dysfunction in people with ADHD. But here's how I kind of think about it as far as like dealing with my symptoms. To me, it means people with ADHD might struggle with tasks like organizing and setting schedules. It's also the reason that we sometimes feel paralyzed when we're trying to start a task, even when we want to start that task. This is what causes many people to call those of us with ADHD just lazy or not trying hard enough, which can be incredibly damaging to us if we start to internalize that thinking. PSA to all of my fellow neurodivergent people, especially those of us with ADHD, I promise you, you're not lazy, and I promise you, you are trying hard enough. I just really want to emphasize that those of us with ADHD often fall into these very toxic mindsets, and the problem with that is it makes it even harder for us to cope with these problems. But this is also a symptom of our ADHD, so we need to acknowledge that this might happen to us, and we need to develop coping mechanisms to help us either start tasks or do tasks that are particularly difficult for us, like cleaning our houses. That's what I'm talking about today, how to cope with your executive dysfunction as it applies to cleaning specifically. And also, about how much I hate folding laundry. I hate folding laundry so very, very much. It is literally my least favorite task. I hate folding my clean clothes. I'm kidding. But really, am I? When it comes down to it, for those of us with a deficit in executive function, the tasks we like the least are often the tasks we put off the longest. When it comes to cleaning, I'll avoid folding laundry for so long that I end up just waiting until I have to do laundry again, meaning that there are piles of clothes all over my floor because my clean clothes are in the hamper that I normally keep my dirty clothes in, or I have a sink full of dishes because the clean dishes are all in the dishwasher and I haven't put them away yet, or I end up with a bag of trash next to my back door because, you know, it was overflowing, so I, pulled the bag and then put a new one in, but never actually took the full bag out. But that's why I thought it might be a kind of good idea to talk about some of these issues that I have, because some of the coping mechanisms I developed might help other people. Now, before I get into the tips, I just want to put out a general disclaimer that I am not a doctor, therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, nor do I ever claim to be one. I'm just someone who has ADHD, and these are just the things that work well for me. And that's why I'm kind of sharing them, is because, sometimes when I'm gonna be honest, sometimes you're broke and you can't go see a therapist or like a psychiatrist, and you can't get medication for your ADHD, and sometimes you just kind of need to figure it the heck out. So here's a free resource for you to do that, basically. When I first found out and was first diagnosed, something that really helped me was seeing what other people with ADHD were doing that was actually like helping them. There's a link in the description, which I've already mentioned, to a magazine called ADDitude Mag. It's existed for a pretty long time. I'm gonna be honest, like I have done no actual research on this magazine. I have written for it a couple of times for their blog for free because it kind of just was like a little thing for me to do in quarantine. But I've done no research on the magazine really, but they do have a pretty active blog section where people who have ADHD will talk about, various coping mechanisms, things that are going on in their lives, just anything that you can kind of think of in that realm, and that was always very helpful to me. So yeah, I'm not a doctor, I'm just trying to help out. That's basically what I'm saying. The first tip I have is to do these tasks in short bursts. Now, this can be backed up with a list, but I'm going to say right now, I am not going to be yet another person in the flood of people telling those of us with ADHD to just make lists. Like, that's gonna solve all of our problems. Also, honestly, like, people with ADHD aren't children. We know that we need to do laundry every now and again if we want to have clean clothes. Like, we're not stupid. Like, it's gonna be flat out, we're not. That's not what's going on. What I'm trying to suggest is, instead of doing something where you're like listing things out, to just at the beginning of your day, pick out a couple of tasks that you want to focus on getting finished. And I want to emphasize that these tasks can be really small. Like, some days I might choose to clean off my kitchen table and load the dishwasher, or take out the trash and do laundry, do a single load of laundry. And the smaller these tasks are, the better, in my opinion. The reason for that is it just like doesn't get overwhelming, and you don't have that feeling of like, I have so much to do, like I don't know where to start. That kind of helps mitigate that. Plus, you know, I work during the day. There's only so much I can do before and after work. I do work from home, which is nice, so I could do laundry while working. That's something that's like a task that's really easy for me to do while I work. Just a nice perk. And this kind of like, I vaguely mentioned this in my first tip, but this is my second tip. And I want to preface that this is kind of like better for like longer tasks, like if you need to do like all your laundry in a single day, for example, or, you know, just like general tasks that take like a really long time. Tip number 2 is to start early in your day. So like, as soon as you wake up, pick a couple tasks. The earlier you start in the day, the more likely you are to get everything you need to get done in that day. This is a for me thing, but for example, when it comes to doing dishes, it's easier for me to unload the dishwasher early in the morning, take a step away, take a little bit of a break, come back to it, you know, maybe load the dishwasher, take another little break, come back to it, and, you know, then do all of the hand wash dishes. Even if that means that I have to run the dishwasher overnight rather than during the day, like, that's not really the worst thing in the world when you think about it, but I got everything I needed to get done. And it's also better than not getting your dishes done at all. Clean dishes are usually better than dirty ones, let's be real. But anyway, this bleeds into my third tip as well, which is to take breaks. A lot of these tips, like, I would suggest using in tandem, whether the breaks be in between doing portions of like a larger task, or, you know, you just finished something that you wanted to accomplish. I think it's always great to kind of just sit down and like chill for a second after you've done something. And it's okay if your break ends up being a little bit longer than you expected. That's something that happens to people with ADHD a lot, and we tend to like beat ourselves up for it, but like when you really when it comes down to it, it's like you spent like 15 extra minutes sitting on the couch, it's fine. Which is something I have to tell myself very often, so like, you're not alone, I get it. That happens to everyone, including people who aren't neurodivergent, so like, trust me, you're very normal. Oh, I'm sitting in front of so many anime figures right now, and I just tried to call myself normal, basically. But you need to rest sometimes. And this always helps me get the motivation to start again once I've gathered myself, maybe eaten a little bit of a snack, and decided what I want to do next. And this is also very important for breaking up your hyper-focus flow, which some people were like, why wouldn't I want to hyper-focus on cleaning? Well, like a lot of reasons, like you might have to shower before you go somewhere. Well, we're all still kind of quarantined, but you know what I mean. You promised yourself you're gonna do something that day, and you know, if you get kind of hyper-focused on cleaning, that's when those things kind of start to conflict. Taking breaks is like a really good way that you don't end up super in that hyper-focus flow, and you can kind of remind yourself, I have other tasks I need to do, and you don't end up ignoring tasks that you absolutely have to do that day in favor of the ones you've become hyper-focused on. Now, we are on to my last tip. I'm trying to make this video a little shorter than my last one. This is my last tip for cleaning in particular, and that is to reward yourself. You've done a thing, so that deserves a reward. Like, it's really that simple. But I know that many of us with ADHD actually struggle with over-rewarding, or in my opinion, worse, under-rewarding, because we feel like these tasks are really basic and that we should be better at getting them done. And that's just honestly not fair to us. But I'm gonna talk about those of us who over-reward first, and then I'll talk about people who under-reward. For those of us who might over-reward, meaning we spend money that we shouldn't, or, you know, we let ourselves like we sit down to play a video game and we get sucked in for the rest of the day and we only end up accomplishing that one task, for example, there's a lot of reasons we could end up not back on task, basically. I have a suggestion for those of us who over-reward, and I'm very sorry about it. It does involve a list. I am not going to be yet another person in the flood of people telling those of us with ADHD to just make lists. Like, that's going to solve all of our problems. I'm contradicted myself. But this does work for me, so that's why I'm sharing it. I keep a list of ideas for like small rewards, and these are things that are usually, they don't cost money and they have a very obvious end to them. This of course can work for those of us who under reward as well. I would actually suggest anyone with ADHD keeping like a list like this, but again, the list thing, I understand. But anyway, my list of small rewards right now are things like take a bath, watch a YouTube video, get myself a cup of coffee, water my Animal Crossing flowers, play a single level of a video game, and like all of these are great ways to reward yourself without completely distracting yourself, or on the other end, not spending too much money, which is a thing that happens to me a lot. Now, admittedly, you could get like sucked into like a video game or something like Animal Crossing. Obviously, if you have that kind of problem, I would suggest maybe just not choosing those to keep on this list. Or you could set a timer, which will kind of just remind you, and like if you do start to like hyper focus or just like get too into the game, you use the timer to remind yourself that you need to stop. For those of us who under reward, which I used to do a lot, especially when I was in college before I knew I had ADHD, like looking back on it, I was like, oh my God, I never rewarded myself for anything. I would do entire school tasks, like write an entire essay, like early too, and I would just think that I didn't like deserve anything for that. Oh, you know, I'm gonna order takeout since I did the thing. And then I would like get done with it and I'd be like, actually, I don't really deserve takeout for that. I needed to do it anyway. And then I would cook myself ramen. Why was I like that? I don't understand. So for those of us who under reward ourselves, I would highly suggest just keeping a log of everything you've done in a day. Just real simple, notepad, notebook, whatever. Write down what you've done that day. Even if it's something really small, like did dishes. Something I did recently was hung a coat rack on my wall. I'd had it for like a week by the time I did that. Just write it down, and at the end of the day, if you're thinking, or anytime you're thinking about rewarding yourself, for example, just sit down and look at this log you have. That way you can help visualize just how much you've actually done in a period of time, which will make it a lot easier for you to kind of get over that toxic mindset that like you've not actually done anything. You have, obviously. And you know, it'll just help you internalize that idea that you are doing things and that those things are taking effort out of your time, your day, your life, mental, physical energy. For those of us who under reward, it's gonna be a little harder for us to realize that we deserve a break or to do something for ourselves because we finished a task, just because we've internalized, and remember I mentioned this at the very beginning of the video, we've internalized that idea that we're just lazy or we're not trying hard enough. It's just not true. Part of the reason like I really want to put an emphasis on this is because so many of us kind of fall into this mindset because a lot of like outside things are coming at us, whether that be parents or roommates or teachers, who just kind of assume that regardless of what's going on with you internally, like that you're the problem. You're not the problem. You're not. I'm just gonna keep repeatedly telling you that you're not the problem. The ADHD is the problem, and not figuring out effective coping mechanisms because nobody wants to like acknowledge that you need those is the problem. But one of the big reasons I want to include this tip in this video is that everyone with ADHD will probably go through periods of under or over rewarding themselves. And like in this video alone, I've admitted that I both was frequently under rewarding myself when I was in college, but also now frequently have a problem where I over reward myself and end up spending too much money. Everyone's a little bit different, you know, different stages of your life can affect like how you react to certain things and certain stressors, at least for me. Let me tell you, it's just hard to cope with executive dysfunction. We just need to acknowledge that. We need to know that it's hard and that we should reward ourselves for doing those important tasks when we do them, even if we feel like those tasks are really small or really basic. Anyway, those of us with ADHD are great. And like, even if we're having a hard time, we're doing our best. Hopefully some of these tips were helpful to you. And if you have ADHD yourself, I just want to throw it out there, please feel free to contact me in some way, whether you tweet at me or you send me a DM on Instagram or Twitter. My handle on both is @myADHDlifestyle, which is the same name as the channel now. I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said before, please like and subscribe if you did, or you can hit the bell icon to get notified every single time that I post. Anyway, I finished recording this video, so I'm gonna reward myself by eating some of the banana bread I made last night. Excited. Oh, that feels so disingenuous. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go eat some banana bread.